cash, and $960,000 shall be transferred from the overlay surplus funds, that the town manager shall be authorized to have oversight of the project, that in accordance with Section 4-2 of the Town of Winchester Home Rule Charter, the town manager shall have the authority to enter into contracts and approve payments with respect to the project. On behalf of the EFBBC, we'll start off with Mr. Nixon, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Pleased to be with you again this evening. I'm going to run through maybe 3/4 of the presentation and hand off to my friend John Fallon on behalf of the Select Board to wrap it up tonight. So first of all, let me just acknowledge what for some of you may be the elephant in the room. This high school gymnasium is a beautiful looking space. It presents a very, very strong first impression. And I know folks in other districts, when they first walk in, they're envious of this space. And that's great. It does not suffer from neglect. But for our student athletes and community members who compete on this floor, they know all too well the floor is falling apart and it's accelerating in its decay. They also understand, along with our athletic staff, how poorly this gymnasium, as it's configured today, accommodates multiple sports in simultaneous contests. So our request to you under Article 34 is to invest in a flooring replacement that will last generations, over 40 years, and reconfigure this space so that we can better accommodate the needs of our athletics department and do it in a way almost as strong as the first impression it makes when you walk in the room. So very quickly, 3 components to the project scope. The first is a reflooring of the high school gym. We propose resilient maple athletic flooring over a sleeper system with shock pads. So we're not talking about putting wood directly on concrete. This will be a resilient floor. No more chemically welded sheet rubber flooring. We also are proposing some equipment replacement where required. I'll get into that. We will reuse as much equipment as we can. And this all goes towards supporting a reconfiguration of the gym, what we're calling turning our competitive spaces 90 degrees. And I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. First, on the flooring. When Madam Moderator invited many of you to take a look during our break the other evening, I was pleased to see so many show up to kind of look around. But you really do need to pay attention, don't you? We have a number of areas on the floor where we have delamination. So we're talking about blistering in the floor. We're seeing more and more of this, and where it's occurring, it is spreading. This floor will be 19 years old this summer. 15 years is typical. This floor was not replaced during the Winchester High School renovation project. When we were first invited to participate with the MSBA, it was around 4.5 years old, and it was in good shape at the time. So I mentioned the delamination. The surface is worn smooth. So from a distance, you look at it and you think, it's a wood floor. It's not. It's fake. It's printed wood on that sheet rubber, as I mentioned. And in that image below, what you're seeing is not only did the pattern of wood wear away, but more importantly, the texture on the surface itself, which provides some friction for play, has worn smooth. So you wouldn't want to drive your cars with bald tires in the rain, and this is sort of the athletic equivalent. The seams are separating in the gym as well. I mentioned this is a sheet good, so chemical welds are what hold this together. Those seams are failing, and it's not repairable. The floor needs to go. So we're proposing an athletic maple floor over sleepers with shock pads. As I said, the detail to the right is actually a detail of our Winchester High School. We have a recessed sort of area in the slab that can accommodate this. Gives you an idea of what it looks like as it gets built. But here's really the exciting part. With proper maintenance, these floors are expected to last well over 40 years. So, and there's a premium for this. It's about $150,000 extra to go with the wood over the rubber. But imagine you're going to get a floor that has 3 times the life or more from rubber. So now I just want to talk about the reconfiguration. So pay attention, I have to go through this very quickly. I'm going to call this stop action animation with architectural drawings. So today, in the gym, it's divided in half with that divider curtain. We have 4 practice courts today that accommodate basketball and volleyball, 2 on the left and 2 on the right. I drop in the backboard so you can better visualize this. The backboards are supported from the trusses up above. These would all be relocated with our proposal. Importantly, these practice courts are not regulation size. They're a little smaller than regulation, so we can't hold contests in this space. We have 7 bleacher sets in the gym. 2 large ones, they accommodate a little over 300 spectators each. We have 2 medium sections that accommodate a little over 155, and we have 3 small sections that accommodate 90 spectators. So for games, it's different. For games, we use the right side of the gym as you see it. The competition space is turned 90 degrees, so east-west instead of north-south. This is a competition, sort of regulation-sized court, is what I mean to say. Plenty of space for teams, so the full bench, the coaches, the trainers, the staff, the equipment, officials, etc. And of course, we have to have room for spectators. So what I'm showing you here is this representation. We're actually pulling out the bleachers. Here's what's important to know. In the current configuration we have upstairs, we can only accommodate 390 spectators today. The medium bleacher set at the top with the yellow arrow was serviced a couple of weeks ago. It already has another out of order sign. It's got different color pieces of tape because I think they keep using the same sign every couple of weeks, and it can no longer be trusted. So today we can fit 390. This is an issue because the MIAA voted new rules last year that actually restrict host teams after the first round of the tournament in basketball. If you can't accommodate 500 spectators, you can't be the host site. So our kids could be the host team post round one, and we can't host at Winchester High School. Got to have at least 500. New rules for volleyball have just been voted, and they're going into place next year. The medium bleacher set to the left that you see on the other side of the curtain has been inoperable for years, and the other three with the white arrows are simply poorly configured for anybody who's trying to watch a game. And I showed those extended so you can appreciate how they do conflict with those practice spaces. So what we propose to do here is simply reconfigure the space. Take the good equipment that we have, let's move it, let's turn the room, and we're gonna have to make some investments in new equipment as well. So let's talk about what's new. With all the curtains up, imagine a fully open gym. We propose a 2-lane, non-regulation indoor track for practice and to support our physical education classes. Still, we look to divide the room in half, but notice the competition spaces no longer run east-west. We're turning them north-south. In doing this, we can actually get competition, regulation competition-sized courts for basketball and for volleyball. And then what we're proposing is to put in bleacher sets at the ends of the room, on the short ends of the room. This is important. It can also accommodate our regulation wrestling mats. They're about 45 feet across. We can accommodate 2 on either side, again for competition. And with this arrangement, we actually now have room, I'm indicating in the upper left, we can actually accommodate the wrestling team's equipment down on the ground floor instead of putting it in a sling and hoisting it up into the rafters, which takes a ridiculous amount of time, is very inefficient. So with this new idea about the bleacher sets, this is kind of exciting. We can accommodate a minimum of 750 spectators in each set of bleachers and possibly up to 800. We can be running 2 games simultaneously and have a packed house. And for an especially large event, we propose that the bleacher set on the left can actually be driven away from the wall. Raise the curtain, bring the bleachers in, and we can host an event and accommodate 1,500 spectators. Could be fantastic. Further, we also propose to divide this into quarters with 2 more curtains, and we can actually get regulation spaces here as well, not for competition, but to support practices and skill sessions, breakout games, and that kind of thing. We can support basketball and volleyball here, as well as wrestling, as well as youth sports. So, real quickly, to summarize, the second and third components of this, the floor hopefully makes sense to you. If we extend them fully today, the bleachers conflict with play. Our existing arrangement does not support simultaneous contests. We are not in compliance with the MIAA's capacity guidelines that have since been voted for basketball and volleyball. Our proposal is both adaptable and flexible for competition, practice, skill sessions, and can support our community youth sports as well. And perhaps most importantly, we're looking at a 40-year plus project, which we think is a real smart investment. Madam Moderator, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Fallon.
Mr. Fallon, Vice Chair of the Select Board.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the schedule and about the funding, but just going off script here a little bit. I've been going to the gym for 52 years and thinking about all the things that have gone on in there. And one of the telling signs from Chris's presentation was the bleachers I sat in when my daughter Mary graduated 4 years ago are inoperable. And so when it rains, that's what graduation is. And the bleachers are not functional for a bunch of reasons, but one of them is the floor is soft, the motors don't work, and a whole bunch of other things. So I'm a complete advocate for this. And also, just an aside, it's such a community resource. We have some youth basketball folks here today. My son-in-law plays basketball here on Sunday morning, so enough on that. So what does this look like? So if you appropriate the funds this evening, The next step would be to meet with the community and the athletic community and understand, their thoughts on the presentation of the use of the new design. At the same time, we're developing a set of bid documents that we expect to have done by the end of June, and then we go to bid immediately thereafter, and we'd expect to have a contractor under contract by the end of July, with work starting in August. And work would proceed in August through the fall, with the floor being completed in November, and the entire facility ready for winter sports in December. So what's the expense side of what's little sources and uses discussion here? So what are the uses? It's the construction cost was estimated last year at about $2.06 million. As of early this year, the hard costs and soft costs, early this year being, if we were to say April 1st, it was about $2.43 million. We expect to have some level of inflation over the next few months by the time we get the bids back, and also perhaps building in a small contingency, and that's how we arrived at the number of $2.6 million. So now, what are the sources?
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
You've reached your 10 minutes?
Yes, may I please have 45 seconds?
Is that realistic?
No, how about 2 minutes, please?
All right. Speaker requested an extension of 2 minutes. All those in favor? All those
All right.
opposed? The ayes have it. You have 2 more minutes.
Do you have the select board has, we appropriated $100,000 for the engineering and design, and have earmarked $1.3 million towards the construction of the floor. And this evening, we're asking for an appropriation of $960,000 from the overlay and $240,000 from free cash to round out the total of $2.6 million. So it's a worthy project, and we'd hope you appropriate the funds. Thank you very much.
Thank you. May we have a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. This was one of the articles that was good that we got late. We got this on April 19th, and by the time, April 19th. So by the time we got on April 19th, it had gone from a $2.5 million project out of free cash to something that seemed much more in line with what FinCom thought we could easily do. So we voted favorable action unanimously on this article. Thank you.
No. At this time, the school committee? May we have your recommendation?
Yes, this is obviously a very important facility for the schools as well, because of our student athletes and student safety. Because of the return on investment of doubling the space, a longer shelf life of the floors, perhaps graduation indoors if we need it. The school committee voted unanimously favorable action. Thank you.
Thank you. This time, town meeting members, if you have questions or comments on this article, please come forward. Mr. Deering.
Through you, Madam Moderator, to the town meeting members, first of all, I'd like to say that I support this article. I'm sure there's some town meeting members in public are saying, why didn't they do this when they spent $129 million on the school? And the reason it wasn't done then is because the auditorium or the gym is far larger than MSB standards allow, and they would not provide any funding. So we didn't have the money in the budget. So that's why it wasn't done. We looked at it, but we just didn't have the money in the budget, and we wouldn't get any reimbursement because if we were to build that school brand new today, that gym would not be that big. Thank you.
Thank you. Further on the question, Mr. Jurius? Oh, hold on. Your mic is not on. One moment, or they can't hear you. I can tell you that. So 1 second. Try it again.
Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you.
Yay. Diabjurius, Precinct 8. I have a simple question. Through you to whoever can answer it, what's an overlay fund?
Thank you. To our comptroller, person of the day, could you please provide town meeting members information on what the overlay fund is?
Certainly. I knew this was coming because you hear this overlay surplus maybe every 5 years or so. What we appropriate, or we don't necessarily appropriate, we reserve money called allowance for abatements and exemptions every year as part of the budget process. Town meeting doesn't vote it, you're not required to vote it, but it is part of the overall budget. And we've been setting aside for the last 10 years, between $350,000 and $450,000 every single year to set aside for abatements and exemptions. And every year, we may not pay out $400,000, so there's an excess in those liabilities and those reserves that we have. So every so often, we review the balances. We have to keep a certain level in these liabilities, in this reserve, every year, but we will review it over time and see what we can release. And the process of releasing it is the town manager will request that the Board of Assessors release what they have in excess overlay. We do some calculations, we figure out what's in excess, and they release it. And in January of this year, the assessors reviewed the analysis and figured out that we could release about $960,000, and that's available to appropriate between the time they release it and June 30th when we close the year. If we don't appropriate it, it just closes to free cash. So it's a reserve that's no longer needed, and we can use it for any sort of legal appropriation.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Town meeting member?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Dorothy Simboli, Precinct 6. I support this motion, but I do have one question for either the Select Board or Mr. Nixon. Where are people going to park if we have space for 1,500 spectators?
To the EFBBC/or Select Board, where are people going to park if we get 1,500 spectators? AKA, where do people park for graduation?
So this is a great question that actually both the school committee and the select board may want to comment on, because as we know from our discussion at Lynch, the school committee is really only accountable for parking on school property, not off school property. It's a fair question. It would have to be on-site and off-site. It would be a pretty rare event, frankly, to bring in that many people, but we certainly would like to be able to host if our boys or girls teams go so deep and they're in the finals and a championship. The potential also exists for some pretty heavy use of club activity as well. And so for that, I would presume there would have to be some discussion with the board, as I know there has been, for instance, through Winchester Boat Club. There have been special events. There's been concern about parking and satellite parking and making accommodation for that. So I would assume that would have to go through the board, but perhaps Mr. Fallon has some thoughts on that as well.
No.
I have no magic or silver bullet, as Chris points out. But what I think about is my kids came to wrestling. I was never wrestling. My kids were wrestlers in high school here, and North Andover has a tournament every year where parents from all over Middlesex County go there, and it's a really cool event. There's probably 500 people there. Dorothy, there aren't 1,500 people there, but we can't host those kinds of things now, but we could in the future. So it showcases Winchester, and it's really, it's quite neat. So to answer your question, and to Chris's point, whether it's a combination of the parking at the town hall parking lot and so forth, but we would have someone who would be in charge of managing that parking and communicating that to the participants and their guests. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, town meeting members, there are non-town meeting members who would like to address this body. For me to recognize them, I need your authority. All those in favor of having non-town meeting members speak to you? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. I believe there are 4 individuals who are interested.
Hi, my name is Maeve Collins, and I'm a junior at the high school. I play volleyball, basketball, and unified basketball. I'm in the gym pretty much every day during the school year, and it's obvious the past couple of years that the floor has become pretty worn out and damaged. The area underneath the hoops is very beat up, and as a result, gets extremely slippery during practices and games. In addition, the seams on the floor have become uneven, and as a result, create a major trip hazard. I hope you will vote yes to renovating the gym.
Thank you so much. Further on the question?
Thank you. I'm Jamie Watt. I'm captain of the Winchester volleyball team. I've been with the team for 4 years, and this year we're having the best season that I've been a part of. If the season finished now, we'd be 3rd in the state, which would guarantee us or we'd be able to host 3 playoff games. But with the new MIA rules, we'd only be able to host the first round, and the next 2 would be at a neutral site. I love playing in Winchester. I like seeing people I know in the crowd. So I think playing at a neutral site would be demoralizing for the athletes. So vote yes to renovate.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on your season. Further on the question?
Yeah. Hello, I'm Carson Sarpong. I'm a sophomore here at Winchester High. This is my first full year on the varsity team, and right now, we really don't have a home court advantage. As we go to other schools, face rival teams, and it really feels like we're their away team there. But when we come here to Winchester High School, we don't have this advantage, and I think my teammates and I can all agree that we feel home court is not just a court, it's a home for us. So coming here in the mornings, playing basketball, you could like imagine like the fans, the noises, the sounds, and then I really believe that renovating the court is like more than just a project for the court, it's a project for our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Further on the question?
Good evening. My name is Gary Grassi. I'm the president of the Winchester Basketball Association. I've played on this court longer than I care to remember, and I can attest to the dangers that have evolved over the years. It's an unsafe surface to play on. But I think more important, folks mentioned the gym space as a wonderful space, as a showpiece as it opens up to the public. This school, when it was renovated, really became a showpiece. It's a fantastic building, but the space that's there right now doesn't work as a showpiece for a lot of the reasons that folks have stated. In terms of youth basketball, we have hundreds of kids in Winchester every year who play and who use this space. My son started using this space in 2004, and the floor hasn't changed. I think we can make a great step forward for the community to make this space even better for not just youth sports, but all the teams. Basketball players are represented, volleyball, wrestlers. It could be an incredible space, and to make it also one that's safe and is flexible for multiple uses is a terrific step forward. I also think that the work that was understanding that there were some roadblocks that couldn't be done with the renovation. This would be a great way to finish off the building and continue the showpiece that this has become. The last thing I want to say is we now have more kids who want to play basketball than we can accommodate, and I do think that by reconfiguring the gym, having 4 courts that are truly playable courts will enable us to serve more kids in the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this time, there's two town meeting members, and after that, we will move to the vote. Would like to go first, Mr. Wilson?
Through you, Madam Moderator, to the proponent, Mr. Nixon mentioned maintenance. And this is a beautiful sight to me to see this much maple. I happen to own quite a bit of maple on the stump, and this is the use that I like to see it go to. But what is the maintenance requirements, and how much should we be budgeting for these? Because the last thing we want to see is something go wrong with a $2.6 million floor.
To the EFPBC, do you have an estimate of the maintenance requirements of this floor and any budget requirements that may be needed in the near future?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Wilson. I don't have a dollar value there, but what I can share with you is sort of 2 ways to think about maintenance. Perhaps every other year, some light resurfacing on that top coat. If anybody's lived through refinishing a wood floor in your home, put down wood, you sand it, you stain it, and then you put down multiple clear layers. And after a while, you start to get some scuffing and scratching. You're not going in to sand your floor down. You're just taking life off your floor. What you're really doing, it's called rescreening. You just sort of roughen up that top surface, put one more top coat down. What we understand from our peer districts in the Middlesex League, and I believe all of our peer districts in the Middlesex League play on an athletic maple floor, is that it's this light sort of periodic refinishing that's necessary. Our athletic director, Mark Ria, who I know is here tonight, reached out to some of his peers. He has found districts that have not actually had to sand their floor in 12, 13, 14 years, as long as some of the ADs have been there. So some periodic maintenance, yes, but it's the kind of maintenance we would expect would happen over the summer, much like when the DPW is hard at work cleaning and painting our schools.
Thank you for that information. Last town meeting member, and we'll take the vote.
Hi, Elizabeth Schreiber, Precinct 7. I just have a quick question. I am in favour of this renovation completely, but I'm wondering about the timing of it. To me, it would make more sense to wait a few months and start it in June of the following year and go through the summer, where you're not taking out an entire season of sport for the girls' volleyball team is the one that I'm thinking of, but I'm sure there are others. So I'm just wondering why, what would be the reason for not doing it over summer?
Thank you. To the EFPBC, can you please provide the schedule of the replacement and why that was chosen?
I'm happy to do that, and I'm just scanning the room for Mr. Aria, Madam Moderator, if we could.
Mr. Aria, can you please come on down and give us information regarding the schedule?
In particular, I'd like Mr. Aria just to sort of address, the impact on the district when we're doing it, because as you understand from the presentation, this would impact the fall. The two quick points I would make: this, like any other project, becomes more expensive the longer you wait. For many of these kinds of projects, architects like to call them summer slammers. There are a lot of flooring contractors who are looking to do work over the summer, and it can actually be very competitive because most districts want to get this done over the summer. The fact that we're in a position where we may be willing operationally to start it late in the summer and go into the fall actually makes this, we think, pretty attractive to some contractors on the price side, but perhaps Mr. Aria could just sort of speak to some of the logistical issues.
Mr. Aria, the athletic director for the high school, if you could provide town meeting information on the logistics and for those who would not have a place to play, what the plan is for them.
Sure. The plan would be for the girls volleyball program to use the McCall Middle School and potentially an elementary school for their space in the fall. This isn't something new. This was done when the school was being renovated as well. You've heard from a participant in the girls volleyball program tonight, and John Fleming, the coach of the girls volleyball program, is here. Everyone wants this done. We feel like the sooner the better, just from a safety perspective. That flooring's not getting any better, and we think getting it done sooner rather than later, honestly, as soon as possible, is best for all the kids. So rather than having them participate on a floor and almost kind of chancing it for the rest of next school year, and with it being more expensive, we'd rather make the accommodations. And I think all the girls in the volleyball program would probably say the same thing, is that they'd rather it get done and be ready to go for their next season. So that's where we're at with the scheduling.
Thank you very much. At this time, I believe town meeting is ready for the vote. We'll try a voice vote, and if I cannot tell, we will go to our clickers. Majority vote is required for passage. A vote in the affirmative will appropriate $1.2 million for the Winchester High School Gymnasium. A vote in the negative will not appropriate that money. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it unanimous, and the motion passes.